this is what life became.
There are more cases than HIV and breast cancer combined.
Right now, my hands are burning.
You could do all the right things and get bit by a tick, and it'll change your world forever.
I was having a lot of patients coming into my office with bullseye rashes, and about 80% would get better with antibiotics, but 20% would not.
Here's a disease that's affecting a lot of people, can be costly, and there's been a very active effort to define not Lyme disease away, but chronic Lyme disease away.
They saw nothing wrong in the laboratory test, and they figured she must be faking it.
This is one of the most controversial, divisive debates in medicine today.
The Lyme disease bacteria is definitely one of the smartest on the planet, who knows how to change forms.
Every doctor I've been to is saying it's all in your head.
You still have these doctors who are digging their heels in the sand.
Investigate the CDC!
If you could image this, I'm not sure there's a controversy anymore.
You have your answer.
I'm not going crazy.
You're not going crazy.
Hello strangers, and welcome back to Arthurian Times. My name is Arthur and we live in strange times. And as you can see from the mountains in the distance there, that winter has finally arrived here in Norway. And when I saw there was a beautiful morning sunshine, I had to come up to my favourite bench, which lies high above the village, just to get this sun on my face, to get some vitamin D. And because, you know, when the winter comes, January, February, March here in Norway, the sunshine is less and less, so you have to make the most of it. And we're only a few weeks away from Christmas, and it's at this time of year that I often think about my grandmother. From age 16 to 18, I lived with my grandmother in her apartment, took care of her. And you know, I'm age 60 now, and that means I'm only 4 years younger than when she died of tuberculosis. And it was often those 2 Christmases that I spent with my grandmother. There was only me and her, and I used to try and make it a wonderful time for her, make a little Christmas tree, put up some decorations, that kind of thing. And I had very little money in those days, but I remember I bought her a small bottle of whiskey and that really brought a smile to her face. But you know, my grandmother was kind of known in her community as a strange lady, and that was because she often spoke as though she knew the mind of God. And well, I don't know if she had a special relationship with God, but I do know that the wisdoms that she passed on to me have certainly stood the test of time and have probably saved my life more times than I realise. My grandmother was clearly a believer, but at that time in my life I was very much an atheist. You know, at school I was very good at science and also art, and in particular I was very good at chemistry, and I came top of the school in chemistry 5 years on the run. Somehow the world of the molecular seemed to make sense to me without any effort. Other pupils in my class really struggled, but for me it was so easy. and I almost became a scientist. Being pressured from my chemistry teacher was pressuring me to become a scientist, but I chose art instead. And anyway, one day I was saying to my grandmother, and she was talking about God, and I said to my grandmother, "You know, Grandma, there's no scientific evidence that God exists." And she looked at me and she said, "Arthur, absence of proof is not proof of absence." I never forgot that. But with regards to her understanding the mind of God, one of the things she used to say to me, and she used to say it quite often, was that God loves a trier. God loves a trier, Arthur. And what she meant by this was that God wishes us to try rather than not try. And apparently, if we try our very best at something, then God will help us in that endeavour in secret ways, I guess. And, you know, so I suppose that means that as long as we try, in the eyes of God at least, it means that no one is a failure. And if we followed that logic, then it would mean that the only person who could possibly be called a failure is somebody who never actually tried anything at all. And you know, my subscribers know that I am an artist. Like I mentioned, I chose art instead of science. And I'll be open about it that it's been my lifelong ambition for my paintings to be accepted into the art world. I wanted my place in art history. I'm quite open about that. But in that particular endeavour, I have utterly failed. And the reasons for that, I'll probably do another video about that. It's not what this video is about, but essentially it's because I never achieved fame in the art world. In the eyes of the art critics and the gallery owners, I am a nobody. And they know that nobody will buy the art from a nobody. And so, although in God's eyes I may be a trier, it actually made no difference that with every painting I ever did, I tried my damned hardest to produce the highest quality work I was capable of. But in the eyes of the art world, that makes no difference at all. And so, although in God's reality I might be not a failure, in the eyes of society I am a failure. And I just have to accept that's how it is. But in saying that, there is one thing in this reality that I tried. And in that trying, I gave everything I had. I couldn't give any more. And this time, I did not fail. I succeeded in defeating one of mankind's most painful, most debilitating diseases known. Lyme disease. And not only did I defeat that disease, but I defeated it without the use of antibiotics. And I've come to slowly realize that that puts me into a very, very small category indeed. And so I wonder what would have happened if I had succeeded in becoming a famous artist. I would have had wealth, status, and many doors would have opened to me. But who knows if I would have been happy? I don't know. But in defeating Lyme disease, the reward for that success was life itself, because I got my health. And anybody who has had Lyme disease will know what I'm talking about when I say that health is everything. We often hear people say that phrase, don't we? You know, you've got your health, you know, health is great, but they don't really quite understand that. But anybody who has recovered from Lyme disease or who has Lyme disease knows exactly that that is true. And you know, guys, I've really suffered in my lifetime, as have we all. We all have our own burdens to carry. But I will say this, that nothing comes close to the suffering I went through when I had Lyme disease. I mean, really, nothing comes close to it. And anybody who has Lyme disease or has had Lyme disease will know exactly what I'm talking about. And when a good friend of mine, who has sadly passed away, he suggested that I made a Lyme testimony video and post it onto YouTube, which I did. And I had no idea of the attention that video testimony would get. And I've actually received almost 100 emails from people who are asking for guidance, advice, and in particular asking for the exact protocol that I used to heal myself. And I've written back to one or two of those people, and a few weeks later they wrote back telling me that they were improving. But you know, I can't write to everybody because it's kind of too time consuming and takes a lot out of me, actually. So I decided that I would do a kind of step-by-step approach video on exactly what I did to heal myself of this terrible disease. So yeah, that's what this video is going to be about, a little bit different. So I can't do it here because it's absolutely freezing out here. It's -3. So I'm going to finish the rest of the video. And it's going to be a long video, obviously, because there's a lot of information. So I'm going to finish the rest of the video in my little home office. So I'll meet you there.
I'm a happy dreamer. I believe in love. I'm a happy dreamer. Guess I'm not the only one. I'm a happy dreamer. I believe in you and me. I'm a happy dreamer.
Hello strangers, and welcome back into my little home office here. So let's get straight into the video. So I'm assuming that if you're watching this, then you either have Lyme disease yourself or perhaps you have a family member or friend that has Lyme disease and you're looking for information that could possibly help them. And that being the case, then you already know that Lyme disease is not like other illnesses. And what I mean by that is, like you go to your doctor, you tell them you're not feeling well, you're having strange symptoms, and he gives you a tablet. You take the tablet every day and you get well. Lyme disease just isn't like that. Well, okay, let's say you got diagnosed early on, then yes, it is a case of taking a tablet every day and you get well. However, there are more and more cases now where people were given antibiotics and they just didn't work. They didn't work at all. And if that's you, then you're in big trouble. And then there are those who were given antibiotics and they did work and they got well. But then, sometime later, after the course of antibiotics was completed, they became ill again. And this time, the Lyme disease was even worse. And if that's you, then you're in big trouble. And then there are those who went to the doctor, told them about your symptoms, and the doctor suspected Lyme disease and sent off your blood test, and the blood test came back negative, and he told you all those symptoms were just in your head. But in fact, you do have Lyme disease. And that means you weren't given antibiotics. And so, if that's you, then you're in big trouble. Because in all those cases, it means that by now, the Lyme bacteria has ingrained itself into your body. And once it's done that, it becomes very, very difficult to defeat that bacteria. And the illness itself becomes very difficult to treat. Lyme disease is horrendous. It creeps into your body like a thief in the night and steals away your entire life. The freedom that your body gave you to be who you are has now become a prison. And you're being tortured in that prison every minute of the day. And all you can think about is trying to get your life back. That's all you want. Give me back my life. You see, I understand perfectly well what people with Lyme disease are going through. If you have Lyme disease and you're watching this, I understand what you're going through because I've been where you are now. And that's the reason why I'm not going to give false hope and say to you that this is some kind of miracle cure. Although for me it certainly felt like a miracle. But in truth it wasn't easy. It was a long and hard fight. And I gave everything I had. And in the end I came through it and I cured myself of Lyme disease. I went from not being able to even lift a cola bottle to be able to hit a golf ball 310 yards. And ask anybody who plays golf, maybe you know somebody, ask them how much strength it takes to be able to hit a ball 310 yards. And I'm 60 years old. And there's no way that I could do that if there was still Lyme bacteria in my body. Now, I can't promise, I can't give a guarantee that the method that I use to heal myself from Lyme disease will also work on you. But I am living proof that it is possible to defeat the Lyme bacteria in your body without the use of antibiotics. And all I'm going to say is this: what have you got to lose by trying? You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain, because if you succeed, you will receive the greatest reward you could ever have. You will get your life back. Okay, now I don't really want to waste time in having to retell my Lyme disease story, because I've already done that. And if anybody particularly wants to hear my full Lyme disease testimony, then you can find it here on my YouTube channel. But in saying that, I do think it's important that you know the very basics of what happened to me, because I think it's important, because then you can see how I arrived at the protocol that I used, and then you can see if you can relate to it, or if it's something that you want to try. So I'm just going to give the basic outline of what happened to me. Now, in my original Lyme disease testimony, I actually stated that I was bitten by a tick in July of 2014, and then I developed symptoms and pain by the end of August of that same year. However, something has changed with that story now, because I now believe I had the Lyme bacteria in my body at least 1 year before, if not more. And that is significant, because it means that by the time I got Lyme disease symptoms, it means that I was in 3rd stage Lyme disease, of chronic Lyme disease. And that is really significant, because it means that I actually defeated chronic Lyme disease. You see, previously I thought that I got Lyme disease early on, and that was the reason why, because I battled it I started battle against it pretty fast, and I thought that was the reason why I actually managed to defeat the Lyme disease. But now I have evidence to show that I actually had the Lyme disease 1 year before, because in the making of this video, I dived deep into my video archives, and I found something by chance which absolutely horrified me. Have a look at this. You see, bloodshot eyes is a well-known symptom of Lyme disease. And, you know, I just can't believe that I didn't go to the doctor about that. I can only think that I thought I wasn't getting enough sleep. But I do remember that I was sweating, and I think I thought I had some kind of flu or something, and my eyes were really red. And of course I didn't know about Lyme disease, and I just thought, oh, I need to get some sleep, because I often work late on paintings, but that's just too dramatic. So now I'm convinced that I actually had Lyme disease 1 year before, if not more. Okay, so like I originally stated, I was bitten by a tick in the beginning of July, and I didn't notice that tick on my leg for at least a couple of weeks. I was in the shower and I felt something on my leg, And I asked my wife to take a look, and she said, yeah, it's a tick. And she took it off with tweezers. But it wasn't until the end of August that I started having strange symptoms and really severe chest pain. I actually thought it was like my heart, actually. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor, the first thing he said to me, was, have you been bitten by a tick? And I was like, what? I said, yeah, I have actually. Told him what happened in the shower and everything. And he said, it's only that I suspect that you might have Lyme disease, Arthur. Now, I'm just going to state here and now that was the very first time in my life that I'd ever heard of Lyme disease. I just hadn't heard of it, to be truthful. And I said, what? Lyme disease, what is that? I said, is it dangerous? Is it serious? And he said, it can be. However, he said, it's treatable with antibiotics, but we need to take a blood sample first. So he sent a sample of my blood to, I think it was Bergen actually, and it came back negative. And so he suggested that my symptoms were due to stress, and I took that at face value, and he ordered me to rest. And so I did. I rested, and unfortunately the symptoms became worse and worse and worse until I was actually, I was screaming in agony. I can't describe the pain I was feeling in my body, and I was screaming, and tears were coming down my face because I thought I was dying. And I was rushed to hospital by helicopter ambulance. And so I was in the hospital for 1 week, and they did well, of course, I told them about what my doctor had said, that he suspected Lyme disease, and that the test came back negative. And so they decided that they would do another test, and that also came back negative. And so they started doing tests to see what else it could be, because they could see I was in distress. They had wires on me. They could see my heart was beating fast. I'm sweating, and I'm obviously in pain. And so they, honestly, I don't know how many blood tests they did. And they went down my mouth, up my bottom, MRI scans, x-rays, every test you could imagine they did. And after all those tests, they couldn't find a thing wrong with me. And so I remember being in this room with this doctor, and there was 2 nurses stood either side of him, and he suggested that my symptoms were psychosomatic. And that's kind of like a fancy way of saying that it's all in your head. And I said to the doctor, okay, doctor, I understand what you're saying. I said, but I think I can accept that diagnosis if you can answer me a couple of questions. And he said, sure, anything you like, ask me whatever you like. And I said, okay, doctor, so you're saying that my mind is producing all these symptoms and the pain in my body, is that right? He said, yeah, I suspect that. So I said, well, can you explain to me then how the mind of somebody could create the exact same symptoms of Lyme disease when that person had never heard of Lyme disease in their entire life? And then I said to him, I looked him straight in the eye, and I said, doctor, You know, my grandmother used to say, if it's not your experience, then it's not your truth. And I understand that you can't feel what I'm feeling now. But I'm telling you, doctor, right now, as I'm sitting here, I'm in severe pain. And I'm using everything I can to kind of contain this pain so I can talk to you. And that is real for me. And if what you're saying is true, that my mind is producing this pain, then can you tell me, doctor, how can I stop my mind from torturing me? Because if you can do that, then I can go back to living my life. Well, I don't know whether in saying that I made the doctor feel guilty, but the next day he came to see me in the morning in private. He actually sent the nurses away, so there was just me and him in the room. And he said to me, you know, Arthur, you don't seem like the type of person that would, in a way, invent this illness to get attention. I've met enough people in my life to know that you just don't fit that type of person, really. I know you're generally ill. And in my opinion, I think you do have Lyme disease. But the problem is, Arthur, that all our tests have failed to find it. And that means, by law, I'm not allowed to give you antibiotics. And I looked him in the eye again, and I said, Doctor, absence of proof is not proof of absence. And he just looked away. And he said to me, I'm sorry, Arthur, but we've decided there's nothing really we can do for you. And today you'll be sent home. And he gave me this warning. He said that he had seen a similar case to mine quite a few years ago. And that person had lived for many years with chronic pain and was now in a wheelchair. And he said to me, you need to prepare your mind for that kind of possible future. Now, I just want to state here and now for the record that while I was in hospital, I was given the highest quality of care. The nurses there were wonderful, and they really took care of me. And that particular doctor, I did find out, was a specialist. Although I'm not quite sure what he was a specialist in, but he was kind of a legend in that hospital. And I do know that that doctor worked tirelessly. He hardly had any sleep because he was determined to find out what was wrong with me. And so I can't complain for the way I was treated at all. I was really looked after, and I can't thank them enough, and I'm incredibly grateful for what happened there. But it is also true that I was sent home on New Year's Eve in a taxi, and I was still in severe pain. And that hour-and-a-half taxi journey was not easy. And when I finally stumbled through my front door and I collapsed on the sofa in real pain, sweating from the pain. And it was right then that I knew that I had very few choices. First of all, I could accept what the doctor had told me, that my future was going to be one of chronic pain and possibly ending up in a wheelchair. Or I could just end it all, just don't go through all that and just end my life, get it over and done with. And I'll be honest with you, that second choice looked very desirable at that particular moment in time. And it was just at that moment that I heard my grandmother's voice echoing in the back of my mind. And she said, "Arthur, God loves a trier." And it was right there and then that I decided that I would try to heal myself. And, by now, because I'd heard of Lyme disease, I'd Googled it. And so I understood that there was no time to waste in fighting the disease, because I knew that the longer I waited, the more the Lyme bacteria would ingrain itself into my body. And so the first thing I did was I started reading medical articles online. I ordered books on Lyme disease, immune system function, and eventually I arrived at a book called Healing Lyme by Professor Stephen Buhner. In fact, I have it here just to prove to you that I'm not lying. And it was this book that, it's full of technical information that someone like me who loves chemistry, well, it really suited me, and I just absorbed it like a sponge. And I'd just like to state that Professor Stephen Buhner, who was a brilliant herbalist, I'd just like to say right here now that he saved my life. There's no question about it, because this book, the information that it gave me, saved my life. And I did want to, or plan to, meet him and thank him in person, but sadly he died not that long ago. A great loss to the world. And it was after reading that book that I began to believe that I really could defeat the Lyme bacteria in my body. And the protocol that I used, the protocol of herbs, is basically, or the base of that protocol I used was the protocol that Stephen Buhner created for himself, because he too contracted Lyme disease and he healed himself using herbs. And those particular herbs that he used is the base of the protocol that I used. So all I really did was that I expanded that protocol to include other things based on the information I learned from reading about science studies from Lyme disease, because research had increased and I love to read about research. And so what happened was I learned things and I thought, oh, maybe that would help as well. So I added things to the protocol, and I also tried things out. I try things trial and error to see what happened. And some things I tried made me feel worse. Some things I tried made me feel better. Some things had a dramatic response, and some things didn't seem to make any difference at all. And in the end, I kind of like settled on one kind of protocol of herbs and diet and other techniques, which I'm going to go into in the video. Okay, as I've mentioned, the base of the protocol I used was invented by Professor Stephen Booner. However, there was one thing that I disagreed with him about, and it's important to mention here, and that was the mindset. The mindset that he used to fight the Lyme bacteria in his body. That's where I disagreed with him. Let me explain. So Stephen Booner, his mindset was that we shouldn't hate the Lyme bacteria, that we should in a way try to see life from the bacteria's perspective, and in a way try to be nice to them, and being nice to them or being friendly to them, that they would kind of like have pity on us and see our side of things, that what they're doing was harming us, and then perhaps they, well, I don't know what quite understand where he was going with that. But my mindset was very different to that. My mindset was rather almost the opposite, in that I saw the bacteria as an enemy that had invaded my body, stolen my life, and was torturing me. And I was going to declare war on it. And the reason why I had that mindset was because my grandfather fought in the Second World War. You know, he took 2 bullets fighting the Nazis. And you see, Britain went to war with Germany because the Prime Minister at the time, Neville Chamberlain, went to see Hitler in a meeting. You know, he tried to appease Hitler. And, you know, it's a famous scene where Neville Chamberlain comes back from a meeting with Hitler, holding a piece of paper saying, "I've got Hitler's signature." And, you know, we all know what happened. Hitler just laughed at it, you know. And the next thing you know, Hitler invaded Poland. So, you see, in my view, sometimes you just have to accept that an enemy is hell-bent on destroying you, and there's no appeasing them. So I didn't kind of want to waste time or take the chance of trying to appease the Lyme bacteria. I just didn't want to go there. I just wanted them dead. You know, I just wanted them dead so that I could get my life back. So, but clearly the fact that Professor Booner healed himself with that mindset is kind of evidence that both those mindsets can work. So you have to decide which mindset you want to have. But the approach that I did for myself was to declare war on the Lyme bacteria, and I did defeat them. But I will say this, that we do know that the Lyme bacteria, I'm going to come to this, we do know that it can hide in your body. You know, it can kind of go into hibernation. And if you was nice to the Lyme bacteria, I'm trying to put myself in the mind of the bacteria, that maybe it thought, you know what, we'll go in hibernation for a while, let him have his life back, and then we'll come out again. You see what I mean? Whereas I just wanted all utterly destroyed out of my body so that they would never come back. That was my attitude. And that's the approach and the mindset that I'm going to present with my protocol. So you have to decide which of those mindsets you want to choose, because mindset is absolutely necessary if you're gonna defeat this Lyme bacteria in your body. You have to have a mindset. Being wishy-washy is not going to do it. You have to decide here and now which approach you want. So a well-known microbiologist who has been studying the Lyme bacteria for a number of years, he said something really interesting. He said, I've come to understand that there's another level to cleverness. That's the Lyme bacteria right there. You see, the Lyme bacteria belongs to a type of organism that has been around for millions of years. And I suppose that in all that time, it has learned sophisticated methods of thriving and surviving. And that is why we are going to need to use every weapon and every tool we can get our hands on in order to defeat it. Ask any military general and they will tell you that in order to defeat an enemy, you have to study them inside out. You have to study every detail about them in order to find their weaknesses. And the Lyme organism is a very, very tough enemy indeed, but it does have weaknesses. And the reasons, or the main three reasons why the Lyme bacteria is a tough enemy. Firstly, it's because it has developed very clever methods of hiding from your immune system. Secondly, it can actually change its form, and it can change its form pretty fast. And thirdly, it can travel through your body at an incredible speed. Now, I don't want to go into all the specifics of the Lyme organism because there's loads of information on that on YouTube. There's loads on that, so I don't want to waste time on doing that. However, I think it's important that you have a visual picture of what it looks like. And I do believe this is important, and I'll be coming to this in another section. But it's really important that you have a visual image of what the enemy looks like in your body. So here's what it looks like here. So you see, it's this sort of spiral shape that makes the organism so destructive and so deadly. Try to imagine it as like a corkscrew, and the corkscrew is alive, and it's what it's doing is corkscrewing through all your muscles and your tissues, all through the kind of soft parts of your body, rather like a wood drill drilling through wood. And if that's not bad enough, these little buggers they can actually produce a chemical that reduces the effectiveness of your immune system. So you see, normally when a bacteria enters your body, it produces a antibody response. You know, the antibodies, well, try to imagine your antibodies as being like soldiers with machine guns, and they're shooting all the enemies, and you know, they're shooting them with a machine gun, wiping out the bacteria. That's like a normal immune system response to bacteria. However, what the Lyme bacteria can do is actually it kind of makes itself camouflaged so that your immune system can't even see it. It's just like and you know, like these soldiers camouflage themselves, and then you can't shoot them, can you, because you can't see them. So you see, that's the reason why so many people who send their blood sample to be tested and it comes back negative, because there might not be enough antibodies in your blood to determine that there's an infection. See, what they're looking for in your blood is evidence of an infection. And if there's very few antibodies in your blood, then there's been no reaction from your immune system, so therefore you don't have Lyme disease. But in fact, you do have Lyme disease. And you know, I could do an entire video just on how the test is not good enough. But like I said, there's lots of other videos out there dealing with that, and I don't really want to go into that. I want to save time. That's not what this video is about, but just to explain that that's the reason why so many people's blood tests come back, because one, the Lyme bacteria may have already left the blood and gone into your tissues and stuff, or it's already managed to hide itself from your immune system. So clearly that's what happened to me, because by the time my blood sample was sent off for testing, I was already in 3rd stage Lyme disease, which means that the bacteria was camouflaged from my immune system. And so there was no antibodies in my blood, so therefore I had no infection and was not given antibiotics. But you know, you may be surprised to hear that now I'm actually glad that they didn't give me antibiotics, and I have good reasons for that. Firstly, that antibiotics, if you're given antibiotic, especially a very long course of antibiotics, it can be dangerous because it can drastically reduce the efficiency of your immune system. And not only that, if it doesn't kill all the bacteria in your body, then the bacteria become resistant to antibiotics. And then where are you? And what people don't seem to understand about antibiotics is that they actually wipe out all the bacteria. And you know, there's 2 types of bacteria, aren't there? There's good bacteria and bad bacteria. And the good bacteria in your gut, in your stomach, is actually vital for your immune system. We actually rely on those good bacteria to help the immune system function. And when we take antibiotics, we wipe those out. And that's why sometimes we can feel sick or we can vomit and stuff, because we're actually destroying the good bacteria in our stomach. And I'm going to talk more about that in the diet section. And The final reason why I'm glad they didn't give me antibiotics is because it forced me to study how the immune system functioned and how important that diet is to keep your immune system healthy. And also, of course, I studied herbs which can actually improve the immune system, and they can actually kill bacteria. And all those things I would never have done if I had been given antibiotics. So you see, in a way, antibiotics kind of go a little bit against nature. And my grandmother used to say to me, try to work with nature rather than against nature, and life will go more your way. So you see, working with herbs or taking herbs and having a healthy diet, I was actually working with the nature. You know, my grandmother, I'm so glad I listened to her wisdoms. But she used to say to me that for every poison on this earth, that God made sure that there was an antidote to that poison. It was simply a case of finding it. And herbs are an antidote to bad bacteria, otherwise known as pathogenic bacteria, bacteria that causes disease. Herbs are nature's antibiotic, and they are an antibiotic that works with your immune system rather than against it. And although herbs don't work as fast as antibiotics, they are powerful nonetheless. And it could well be that it's because they take longer to work that the medical industry has not really explored herbs as a viable option of fighting disease. However, that is now changing, and I think it's because of Lyme disease. You know, they're running out of solutions, and I will in the herb section, I will show you that scientists are now beginning to explore herbs as a viable alternative to fighting Lyme disease. And I will present to you the scientific evidence. Now, when I used herbs, I didn't know about this evidence. This is fairly recent evidence, and shows that my understanding of the chemistry of it was actually correct. So in a way, Professor Buhner and myself have been proven right, because before this, the medical industry basically laughed at the idea of using herbs. But they're no longer laughing now, as I will present to you in the herb section of this video. But before we get into the diet and the herbs part of this video, I would like to present to you another tool that I used that I'm convinced helped me in defeating the Lyme bacteria in my body. And I highly recommend that you use this technique as well. So that's the next section. The Lyme organism exists at the microscopic level of your very being, and it is slowly eroding the core of your very existence. That is why long-term sufferers of Lyme disease, those who have chronic Lyme disease, often talk about the sensation that they are losing their identity. I have also experienced that sensation, and it is absolutely terrifying, really terrifying. But what is even more terrifying is that once the Lyme bacteria has embedded itself into your body, from then on, you share your body with the Lyme bacteria in a kind of symbiotic existence. In short, it wants to keep you alive, but in a weakened and painful state, so that it can feed on you. So you can see why I disagreed with Professor Booner. In my view, these creatures are evil.
Borrelia is a bacteria of the spirochete phylum and is responsible for Lyme disease. In essence, they are parasites. It is difficult to diagnose and track the Borrelia spirochetes for a variety of reasons. The spirochetes are adept at eluding and concealing themselves from the immune system through a series of techniques. First, Borrelia are able to alter their own antigens, making it difficult for the host body's immune system to recognize and attack them. The process it uses to do this is to modify its own genome. The spirochetes are then able to alter the antigens on its own exterior shell so that a person's immune system can no longer recognize it, and thereby the Borrelia infection remains undetected. Even worse, when the spirochetes release these modified antigens, it can cause the body's defense systems to even attack the body's own healthy cells. Secondly, spirochetes often develop biofilm communities. Biofilms are protein barriers or shells that protect the Borrelia from antibiotics, from the immune system's attack cells, and other of the body's defense mechanisms. They do this in order to fool or evade the body's defenses. These protein biofilm barriers make it very difficult to kill or even treat the infection. While the Borrelia spirochetes are residing within the biofilm, they secrete chemicals which allow them to digest nutrients from the host to ingest and survive, thereby causing even greater damage to the body. And thirdly, due to spirochetes' corkscrew motion and other factors, Borrelia can burrow themselves in tissue and organs throughout the body, including the central nervous system, which may cause a variety of neurological symptoms, the heart causing chest pain, heart palpitations, and Lyme carditis. And Borrelia often lodge within the joints, areas which are difficult to access and treat.
And so, if you're going to defeat these clever, psychopathic, pathogenic creatures that have invaded your body, you're going to have to access parts of your consciousness that you've probably never used before. In my own opinion, I believe that this is vital in the fight, because it will enable you to direct the weapons, powerful weapons that you have available to you in your immune system. I believe that using certain techniques, you can actually have a contact with the molecular parts of your body and direct them to actually attack the Lyme bacteria. And you do this by using a technique called visualization. So I learned about the power of visualization many years ago in my youth, when I studied karate for a number of years. And I was lucky enough to have a teacher who was Yeah, he was a professor of philosophy, I think. And one of the things he taught us about was how to use visualization. So let me give you an example of how this works. So here's a true story that kind of captures how visualization works. So there was a karate champion, and he was giving a public demonstration of chopping 3 bricks with his bare hand. And he admits that he wasn't quite mentally prepared for this tournament. He hadn't really trained well enough. And when he tried to break these bricks on a number of occasions, and he failed in that demonstration, and he actually broke all the bones, I think some of his fingers and this all here, he broke all the bones here in his hand, which kind of shows you that it's not fake, doesn't it, you know? And of course he went into hospital, and the doctors told him that it would take at least 3 months for his hand to fully heal. However, that karate champion understood the powers of visualization, and using that, his hand healed in half the time, which amazed doctors. I'm not going to dig it out, but I suppose you could look it up and find it on Google if you don't believe me. But you know, we was told this story by our teacher. Anyway, so they bandage up his hand. You know, it's all in plaster, and so all the bones are being fused together, aren't they? So what this karate champion did was every single night he visualized like tiny little men working on his hand using like glue, you know, cementing all his broken bones together. So, you know, imagine little workers making a brick wall. They're using cement, aren't they? So they use all tiny little men. He's visualizing every night when he goes to sleep, all these tiny men are cementing his broken bones back together. And a week or so later, they take another x-ray, and the doctors were amazed of how fast the bones had fused together. They just couldn't believe it. It was twice the speed. And of course, the next stage was that all this cement was rough. You know, all the bones were kind of rough, weren't they? Because they'd fused together, and he couldn't move his hand. So the next thing he did, every night when he went to sleep, those same little men were using sandpaper to smoothen all the bones in his hand. Okay, so that now the rough cement was now smooth. And then the next stage, the doctor said he needs to try to start to move his hand now. But of course, it's all stiff, isn't it? You know. So from then on, he started to visualize those little men putting oil, like little oil bottles, in between the joints of his fingers so that they would move easier. And sure enough, it worked. And the doctors were just amazed as how fast his hand healed. So, you know, you know, what's going on there, you know what I mean? There's no real kind of scientific evidence to prove that this works, other than the fact that his hand healed twice the speed than normal. And apparently 3 months later, he did that demonstration again, and his hand went through those bricks like butter. I'm not sure that I would have been trying again myself, but I've been assured that this is a true story, and there are many examples of how visualization works. You know, I play golf and I use that technique in golf. I visualize where I want the ball to go, and it nearly always goes where I want it to go. But you have to be very focused and focus only on that visualization. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. So that's kind of the technique of visualization. And you know, if you tell a doctor, you know, about this, saying that you're going to use visualization, they'll just laugh at you and say it's nonsense. And yet the same doctors will tell you that your mind is powerful enough to create symptoms of Lyme disease and pain in your body. So which is true? See what I mean? You can't have one and not the other. You know what I'm saying? Either your mind is powerful or it isn't. And my grandmother used to say to me something about this was quite interesting, because you know I lived with her when I was doing this karate, and I told her about this visualization thing, and she thought it was really interesting. And she said to me, she said, you know, Arthur, over the past 100 years or so, we have divided ourselves into 3 parts. We have given the mind to the psychiatrist, the body to the doctor, and the soul to the priest, when in fact it's all one thing, all working together. And you know, I think she's right about that. We're actually everything's all connected. You know, the mind, the soul, the heart, the body, it's all working one thing. And I think in Western times we've just divided it and thinking it doesn't work together. And I advise you to start thinking of yourself in that way, and I think you'll have a better chance at defeating the Lyme bacteria in your body. And so why would you use visualization techniques? Well, it's because I think if you can visualize certain parts of your immune system, then you can activate certain weapons in your immune system in a better way. So let me explain. So I want you to try to imagine the Lyme bacteria as a kind of super powerful robot army, you know, that has invaded your body. And to help you with that, I've actually found a really interesting clip from a Disney series, like from Star Wars. It's called The Mandalorian, one of my favorite series. And have a look at this clip first. Okay, so you can see that one of these robot soldiers gets through the door, doesn't he? And the Mandalorian is trying to defeat him. And you can see just how difficult it was for him to defeat that robot. See? And that's kind of a metaphor to show you just how powerful the Lyme bacteria is. So now you've got that in your mind, have a look at this next clip. So you see that Luke Skywalker comes, and it kind of shows you just how easily he destroys these super powerful robot soldiers. You know, it just crushes them, doesn't he? And that's kind of like a metaphor to show, you know, in that particular series of The Mandalorian, to show you the power of Luke Skywalker. And the reason why he can crush those powerful robot soldiers so easily is because he has extra powers that they call the Force. You must have heard about this, you know, if you're not a Star Wars fan, even if you're not, you must have heard about the Force. And so that's kind of a metaphor of how powerful that these Jedi Knights are. Now, what if I told you that in your body you have a army, your own personal army of Jedi Knights, and these Jedi Knights are so powerful that they can destroy the most threatening, what can we call it? They can destroy the biggest threat to mankind that we know of, and that's cancer cells. So in our body we have something called T cells, and T cells are like Jedi Knights. They can destroy anything, including cancer cells. And if they can destroy cancer cells, they can absolutely destroy Lyme bacteria. If you don't believe me, have a look at this. This is going to amaze you.
Inside all of us lurks a serial killer. A killer whose primary function is to kill and then kill again. These are cytotoxic T cells, a specialized member of our white blood cells. They patrol our bodies, identifying and destroying virally infected and cancer cells, and they do so with remarkable precision and efficiency. There are about 5 million T cells in a teaspoon of our blood, engaged in the ferocious and unrelenting battle to keep us healthy. These amorphous blobs move around quite rapidly, pushing out their leading edge and probing their environment as they go. When a cytotoxic T cell finds a cancer cell, membrane protrusions rapidly explore the surface of the cell, checking for the telltale signs of cancer. They kill their targets using poisonous proteins visible here in red. These cytotoxic granules move down special pathways in the cell called microtubules to the interface between the T cell and the cancer cell. the T cell punctures the surface of the cancer cell and delivers its deadly cytotoxins. This is very important in our bodies, where cells are packed together, as it focuses the lethal hit on the target and minimizes collateral damage to the neighboring healthy cells. The fate of the cancer cell is sealed. The T cell then moves on, hungry to find another victim.
So you see, T cells are our biggest weapon we have against disease. Now, they're only really just starting to study how to use T cells. But when I, back in 2014 and 15, when I was studying how I could heal myself, that was when I first came across what T cells were. And I realized that they kind of travel around your body randomly in a way, looking for bacteria and cancer cells. So they're kind of traveling around and they go, oh, look, there's something there, let's go and kill that. But what if you could direct those T cells to go and specifically look for the Lyme bacteria? And that's where visualization comes in. So what I used to do every night when I went to bed, I used to visualize the T cells in my body and try to get them to look for the Lyme bacteria hiding in my body. And what if I also told you, on top of that, that one of the herbs that we will be using actually increases the power of the T cells? So that's visualization. Like I say, there's been no real scientific research done on visualization, but the evidence is everywhere. And like I say, the doctors can't have it both ways. They can't say that your mind is powerful enough to create psychosomatic illness in your body and then say that visualization techniques don't work. You know what I mean? You can't have it both ways.
Don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining.
So that's my advice. It's up to you, but that's what I did. And you know, because I was in the world of karate, I've seen the power of visualization with my own eyes. So it's entirely up to you, but I'm just saying that this is a powerful weapon that you can have, you know, and it also helps you psychologically, I would say, you know, to visualize them attacking these cells and killing them. Now, those that have Lyme disease, and specifically chronic Lyme disease, it's different, you know, the symptoms and the pain is different for everybody, but I would say that the pain is always there, and this pain is known as neuropathic pain. And the reason why it's so painful, of course, is because specifically when the Lyme bacteria are eating away at your nerves. And sadly, you know, Lyme disease does really harm the nervous system. And anything to do with the nerves is going to be painful, because that's how we feel things, isn't it? You know, we have nerves in our fingers and it's all attached to the body. It enables us to have feelings. You know, when we have a swim in the warm ocean, you know, we feel the warm water on our skin and we react to it we get pleasant feelings. All these things are to do with our nervous system. And so when the Lyme bacteria is eating away at our nerves, you know, it's going to be painful, isn't it? So that's one side of where the pain comes from. But there's another side to where this pain comes from, and that was another thing that really shocked me when I was studying this illness. So I actually learned about what happens when your immune system, when the antibodies and the T cells and your whole immune system starts attacking bacteria or viruses. It starts killing them. When they kill them, the bacteria organism actually breaks apart. So here I've got a really good visual thing to show you here that kind of captures what I'm saying. Have a look at this. So that scene from the movie The War of the Worlds, if you imagine that the alien, the big tripod thing, imagine that's actually your immune system, okay? So it's a good thing in this analogy, and it's actually zapping the bacteria or the viruses. All the people running away are actually bacteria, and you see as it's blasting them, they break apart, don't they? So that's kind of what's happening in your body when your immune system is killing the bacteria. Remember, this is just a metaphor now. It's just to help you visualize what's going on, because I really believe that this helps. So when they break apart like that, I want you to imagine that when they break apart, that a poison gas comes out of them. See, but rather than gas, when the bacteria breaks apart, it releases toxins. So it's like as if they have poison blood. See, and all that poison, all those toxins are released into your bloodstream. So it goes all in your blood and in your muscles and everywhere. I mean, no wonder you get strange symptoms with all those toxins in your blood. So that's what I mean by symptoms and pain are not the same, because you're getting reactions of pain from the bacteria itself, but you're also getting pain from when they get destroyed. And those symptoms have a special name. They're called Herxheimer responses. From the scientist who found this out was called Herxheimer. I think it was German. And so when you get these strange symptoms and reactions, it's called Herxheimer. But I'm sure if you're a long-term sufferer of, or you have chronic Lyme disease, then I'm sure you've heard of this. So what we have to do to reduce these symptoms, we need to get out the toxins from our body as fast as possible. And that's where the diet comes in, you see. And the reason why I'm explaining this is, my grandmother used to say that when you understand something, you're halfway to solving it. And you see, when you understand what's going on in your body, that there's two types of things going on. The bacteria are either eating you at sensitive parts in your body, or your immune system's actually found them, the T cells have found them, and they're killing them, and then it's releasing toxins in your blood. You see, it helps your mind deal with what's going on, because I think when you don't know what's going on, it can be worse because you start imagining all sorts of things. So that kind of nicely brings me to the next part of the video, the next chapter, which is extremely important, and that's the diet. You know, I had no idea just how powerful an effect that a diet can have on the body until I contracted Lyme disease. A special and specific diet can actually heal, repair, rejuvenate, and clean out toxins from the entire body. Okay, so there are all sorts of diets that specialists can design, but here I'm going to focus entirely on the diet that I used as part of my protocol to heal myself from Lyme disease. And it is a very specific diet for Lyme disease sufferers, and I do advise you, if you're going to do this protocol, I advise you to stick through thick and thin to this diet. And so I'm going to start with the foods that you can't eat, okay? The foods that are forbidden. Okay, so the top of the list, the number one food that you can't eat is sugar, especially white sugar. Sugar to bacteria is like caviar to us. And every time that you take even a teaspoon of sugar in your coffee or your tea, you are giving the bacteria energy. So don't do it. I did have a question from somebody saying, is brown sugar okay? No, it's not. Sorry, 0 sugar. And that means no sweets, no cakes, no fizzy drinks, no cola, nothing, absolute 0 sugar. Even a beer or wine can have sugar in it, so you can't have that. I know it sounds brutal, and it is brutal, and I love sugar. I'm a sugar freak, and it was the hardest thing for me to give up as part of this diet. But I kept in my head that every time I denied myself sugar, I was denying the bacteria sugar. I was denying them extra energy. So don't do it. Stop having sugar now. There are other ways to get that sweet taste without taking sugar, which I'll mention in this part of the video. So listen to me, this, I can't stress this enough, 0 sugar. You know, I did receive an email from a man in America who I'd advised him with diet. And I mentioned this about the sugar to him. And he was really, he liked sugar like me. And he said to me, but Arthur, when I take sugar, I seem to feel better. And I said, yeah, well, of course you do. Because, you know, it's when you give sugar, it's like the bacteria have a party. It's like they're going for a night out, you know. And so instead of eating you, they're ravenous on the sugar, aren't they? You know, they temporarily stopped eating you because they're eating the sugar. But the problem is with that, as soon as they stop eating sugar, once the sugar's been eaten up, then they become ravenous. You know, it reminds me that when I was in my young days and I used to go night clubbing with my friends and we'd drink lots of beer. And at the end of the night, we were starving, ravenous for food, and we would we would go to the nearest takeaway, like a Chinese takeaway, and we would just stuff ourselves with chips and burgers because we was ravenous. And that's the beer that does that to you. And it's exactly the same effect on the bacteria. So I can't say it enough. I know it might temporarily make you feel better, but you're going to pay the price afterwards, and that price is high. We're talking about your health here. You know, as soon as you've got rid of the Lyme bacteria in your body, then yeah, you can go back to sugar again. But for now, for at least 6 months, 0 sugar. If you want your life back, no sugar. Now, remaining on the subject of sugar, because it is important, not all sugar is the same. There is sugar in fruit, but that sugar is not the sugar that the bacteria feed on in your body. It's not the same. So if you want something sweet, then eat fruit. Okay? Also dark chocolate. You can also have that if you want something sweet. Dark chocolate, the darker the better as well. It has now been scientifically proven that dark chocolate can actually help the immune system. So fruit and dark chocolate if you want something sweet. So there's some compensation for you there. Okay, so then there's a third type of sugar, and this sugar is called alpha-gal sugar. Alpha-Gal, alpha-gal sugar, okay? And this sugar is found in red meat. And alpha-gal sugar causes an inflammatory reaction in the body if you have Lyme disease. So I'm sorry guys, but all red meat is now off the menu. You see, what you have to understand here is, like I mentioned before, earlier in this video, that the bacteria is ingrained in your body. You know, you are sharing your life with the bacteria. You know, it's a symbiotic existence now. And that means your body is not the same as it was before. And that means suddenly that you can be allergic to things that you wasn't allergic to before. And you can get a reaction from foods that you didn't get a reaction before. And red meat is one of those things that the alpha-gal sugar causes inflammatory responses in the muscles and even in your heart. So yeah, I'm sorry guys, red meat is off. I mean, there's nothing more I like than a breakfast with egg and bacon. I just love bacon, and I had to give up bacon. You know, that was hard, but you know, as soon as the disease is over, then you can go back to red meat. I mean, I eat bacon every Sunday. I have a lovely egg and bacon breakfast. But while I was on this diet, no bacon at all, no steak, nothing. It contains alpha-gal sugar, and it causes inflammatory reactions. So, sorry, no red meat. Okay, so the next thing you are forbidden to eat is dairy foods. Sorry guys, but milk, I mean, I love a glass of milk. And I had to give up milk, butter, cream, cheese, that kind of thing. Those, just the same as meats, they also cause inflammatory responses. Now, it's not that you can't eat them, but it's gonna cause you pain. It will cause inflammatory pain in your body. So it's up to you. Do you want pain or not pain? So, and if you're in pain, then your body is weaker and the bacteria is stronger. See, so also white bread is that has starch and sugars in there. So no white bread. Brown bread is great. Wholemeal bread. I used to eat grain bread. That's really good. Causes no inflammatory response at all, and it's really healthy for you. I'm sorry guys, but coffee as well. Coffee's off the table, but you can have tea. Now I'm originally from the UK, so a cup of tea was vital for me, and I'm raised with having milk in my tea, so I had to give up that. However, there are lots of herbal teas, and they're really great, like fruit teas. They're really healthy, and they can actually help your immune system. So yeah, teas are great. Coffee, no dairy. Okay, so now we come to the part of the diet that you can eat, but not only can eat, but are essential for you to recover. So first of all, let me just look at my list here. First of all, yeah, we talked about red meat, didn't we? But that doesn't mean all meat is off the table. White meat, for example, chicken and turkey, you can eat. That will cause no inflammatory response, and it's actually really healthy for you too. Luckily for me, I really love chicken, so that was like a savior for me, that I could actually eat chicken. Also eggs are really good for you. Boiled egg in the morning. I always had at least a boiled egg in the morning. And if you can have a fried egg, but if you're going to have a fried egg, you need to use vegetable oil and not butter or ordinary oil. Is anything else? Just let me check my notes here. Of course, you know, it's pretty obvious. Fish is really going to help you, especially if you have Lyme bacteria in your brain. The fish is going to help a lot there. So the more oily the fish, the better. I used to eat a lot of tuna as well. I used to make tuna, you know, these tins of tuna with oil in them, and I used to make like a salad with that, with onions and tomatoes, all those. I used to make it like a really sort of mushy salad. That's really healthy for you. So there is lots of food you can have. Learn to enjoy this diet. It might take a month or so, but you'll start to get used to it. But yeah, white meat, fish, and what was it? Eggs as well. Okay, so fruits, of course, I've already mentioned that you can eat fruits as a substitute for sugar. But actually, some fruits can actually harm the bacteria, so that's a positive. And all fruits, generally speaking, are good for you. But in our case with Lyme disease, what I do recommend is berries. So cranberries, blueberries, blackberries, all those sort of berry type fruits are really rich in antioxidants. Antioxidants are brilliant for detoxing the blood, and you really need to do that to reduce the harm to your body. And we've talked about this before, that when the immune system kills the bacteria or viruses, that toxins are released in your blood, which causes symptoms and pain. So a rich diet of berries. I mean, if you love cranberries, I love blueberries. So I ate loads of blueberries when I had Lyme disease, and I'm sure that they helped to wash out the toxins in my blood. So berries I highly recommend. So talking about fruit brings me nicely to vitamin C. And vitamin C is a vital vitamin in the fight against Lyme disease. And you see, vitamin C is actually a repairing agent. So when your cells are damaged, vitamin C can help repair damaged cells. So high doses of vitamin C are really a great weapon and tool to have in the survival of diseases. And one of the things as well you can do with regards to this vitamin C and fruit is lemons. Now, Lyme disease, or Lyme bacteria, I should say, really hate lemons. They really hate them. And I'll explain why. And it's to do with the chemistry of our blood. Now, I don't want to get too technical here, but some of you may remember your chemistry classes from school, and when you used litmus paper, these little strips of paper that you can dip into a liquid, and you found out if they were actually acidic or alkaline, or I think America uses the word base instead of alkaline. And of course, water should be zero, isn't it? It should have no reaction on the paper at all, because it's not acid or alkaline. So Lyme bacteria does not like alkaline. So if we can actually make our blood more alkaline base rather than acidic base. So here's the reason, another reason why you should not have sugar, because when you have lots of sugar, it makes your blood more acidic, and the Lyme bacteria love that environment. Okay, so acidic or neutral, the Lyme bacteria love that environment. It's like they're on holidays. You know, it's like they're in Hawaii on holiday. So if we can make our blood more alkaline, then it makes the bacteria, the Lyme bacteria, uncomfortable. They don't like it, see? So they will go into their cyst form, which means they're not attacking you, right? So how do we do that? There's a really easy way to do that. So what I used to do at 6 o'clock every single evening, I would have a hot glass of hot water with half a lemon. So cut a lemon in half and squeeze it into a boiling hot glass of water. No sugar. No sugar. You can have honey in there if you need it to sweet. That's okay. Honey's okay, because it is very sour. And if you do that, if you drink a glass of this squeezed hot lemon, what it does, it pushes your blood a little bit over into the alkaline. So if you dipped one of those litmus papers in your blood, it would show alkaline C. And the bacteria just run away from that. They hate it. They feel uncomfortable in it. Now, this is only temporarily. It won't leave your blood like that. And there's no harm to you, by the way. It doesn't do any harm. You won't have any side effects at all. You won't even notice. But your body will automatically, the blood will automatically return itself to a neutral after a period of time. It does that over time quite quickly as well. So this is only a temporary effect, which is why you have to drink it once a day, every day. So, you know, I used to see it as giving the environment like a storm to the bacteria, make life difficult for them. So that's a very easy way of how you can fight the bacteria, by just drinking a hot glass of lemon. Make that as part of your routine. Okay, so I just want to mention a little bit more with regards to vitamins. Now, I've already mentioned that you can get vitamin C from fruit, and that vitamin C is a repairing agent. And so if you have Lyme disease, you know, your body's under attack, isn't it? You know, the Lyme bacteria is destroying cells in your body. And so your body, you know, no wonder you get exhausted, because it's constantly trying to repair damaged cells. And vitamin C helps the body repair those cells. So it's not like, you know, when you're healthy, you can just take a normal amount of vitamin C. With Lyme bacteria, you need to take extra vitamin C. And the type of vitamin C supplements that I recommend are these type. They're kind of like, you put them in water and they fizz up, and they make like a vitamin C drink. And the reason why I recommend those rather than ordinary tablet, sort of vitamin C tablets, is because when the vitamin C is in liquid form, your body will absorb it faster and more thoroughly. I mean, think about it. You know, when you take a tablet, it goes into your stomach, and then your stomach has to break it down and digest it. That takes time, and all those processes actually can reduce the power of that vitamin C. So by the time you get a tablet one, you've lost enormous amounts of vitamin C, whereas the vitamin C in this fizzy form, it's liquid, so your body absorbs it fast. So yeah, so what I used to do, I used to take one of these every night when I went to bed, so that, because I'm resting, aren't I? And while my body's not using energy, my immune system and my whole body system can now access that vitamin C to help repair the damaged cells. And the other vitamin that you need, which is actually, I mean, this is essential, and I can't stress this enough, is vitamin D. This is vital in the fight against Lyme disease. And that is because during the time when I was studying this, there was new studies out which pointed to the fact that Lyme bacteria reduced the amount of vitamin D in your body. And this was only just new news at the time, back in 2015. But now it's actually been proven. It's now proven. And what the Lyme bacteria do, that they actually has the ability to reduce your body's ability to absorb vitamin D. It's absolutely, I mean, what a powerful weapon that is against us. Because without vitamin D, our immune system just can't function properly. Its power is reduced to a very small percent. See, no wonder the immune system can't fight the Lyme bacteria, because it's reduced its power. Now, I remember when I found out about this, I went to my doctor and I told him, you know, I said, listen, there's new studies saying that if you have Lyme disease, then your vitamin D will be low. And he laughed. He was really skeptical about it. And I said, listen, it's true. He says, there's no evidence of this, Arthur. I said, look, if I've got Lyme disease, then my vitamin D levels will be really low. So he said, listen, if you're so convinced, I'll give you a vitamin D blood test, and just to put your mind at ease. So he gave me that blood test. Guess what? My vitamin D levels was dramatically low. And yeah, I wish you could have seen the look on his face. But still, he said, it's probably because you're not getting enough sun. But Now it has been scientifically proven that the Lyme bacteria reduces your body's ability to absorb vitamin D. So therefore, we need to take, it's not just take it, we need to take vitamin D. That will really improve your immune system and fight the bacteria. It will help your immune system be stronger to fight them. So one of these every second night, because you can actually overdo on the vitamin D, but at least one of these every second night. So vitamin C every night and one of these every second night. Now I'm completely healthy now, and I still to this day use that routine. I have one vitamin C when I go to bed, and then the next night I don't have these every night now, but I alternate them from every second night. And that's the reason why I still look 25 years old. Okay, so the final part of the diet is known as like probiotics, really. And what I'm talking about in simple terms is good bacteria. Like I've said, there's two types of bacteria. There's bad bacteria, which is like pathogenic bacteria, which can cause disease and infections. But then there's also good bacteria, which is in our stomach. And that good bacteria is vital for the immune system, because the immune system begins in the gut. So what we need to do is to keep our stomach in really good health. If you have a healthy stomach, then you have a healthy immune system. So therefore, it's wise to eat foods that give you this good bacteria. And that, of course, is yogurts. You know, if you eat a yogurt every day, that will help your gut, your stomach. And I'm not really big on yogurts. So what I used to eat was cottage cheese. That's a really good, helps your stomach. What I used to have every single morning was toast with the brown bread. And then, of course, vegetable margarine. And then I would have this cottage cheese, and with sliced tomatoes on top and a boiled egg. And that was kind of like my morning routine breakfast, that, because I'm getting vitamin C from the tomatoes, I'm getting protein from the eggs, and I'm helping my stomach with cottage cheese. So that's pretty much the entire diet that I had. You know, you can now you've got the list of what you can have and what you can't have. You should be able to design a diet for yourself that you can live with. And before I finish, I'm just going to say one last thing: no sugar. Herbs really are masters of the universe. You know, it reminds me of when my daughter was small, and on Saturday mornings we used to watch children's television together. And one of the sort of cartoon series that used to be shown back then was called He-Man. Does anyone remember that at all? It was kind of like fantasy, sci-fi, and there was a man called He-Man who was basically a good person, and he was big, you know, and he was a protector of the good over evil, and he had a powerful sword, and he would pull out the sword and say, "I am the power." Does anyone remember that?
And the masters of the universe. I am Adam,
Prince of Eternia and defender of the secrets of Castle Grayskull. This is Cringer, my fearless friend. Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword and said, "By the power of Grayskull!"
I am the power. Such a kind of positive show. And, you know, like I said, herbs are like that. They are the masters of the universe. And from now on, you know, we talked about visualization. From now on, I want you to start thinking about herbs in that way. So every time you take herbs, I want you to think of yourself as He-Man saying, "I am the power." And this will instill this energy and positivity every time you take those herbs. So just as different foods have different effects on the body, herbs are exactly the same. They do different things. And we'll be looking at all those different types of herbs in this section of the video. So some herbs actually can protect the body. Some herbs enhance the body. Some herbs actually help with pain. Some herbs actually they can actually improve the quality of the immune system. Some herbs can help with symptoms, and finally some herbs are brilliant at destroying bacteria. Okay, so before I start, I just want to stress the importance of using quality herbs. You know, there are a great deal of choice these days of herbs that you can buy online. And it's not a case that always the most expensive ones are the best or the cheapest ones are the worst. It's not really like that with herbs. I don't know why. But one thing's for certain is that there are a lot of scammers out there, and these scammers have no scruples or morals whatsoever, and they don't care a damn about swindling the elderly or the sick out of their money in selling you poor quality products. So therefore, in this video, I'm only going to recommend the herbs that I used myself. I did try many different types of herbs bought from different companies, and I ended up on sticking with ones that did seem to have an effect on me, a positive effect. So those are the ones that I will be recommending here in this video and where you can get them. So with that said, let's get started. So let's just have a recap. So the reason why you are ill and you're in so much pain is because your body is full of Lyme bacteria, and this bacteria is eating away at your very existence, and the longer that they're in there, the more damage they're going to do to your body and to your entire existence. Therefore, we should waste no time in starting to kill them. So that's the first thing, we should start killing them, okay? And the first herb that is actually one herb that is, you know, what would I say? It's like the godfather of herbs for killing bacteria. And it's been well known for centuries and centuries, if not thousands of years. And it's probably the most powerful herb known to mankind to kill bacteria, and that is garlic. So we're going to start with garlic, and you may be surprised about some things with regards to this herb. Okay, so garlic is extremely powerful, and it will actually kill pretty much all known bacteria. But I think the reason why the medical industry don't really go in for it is because it's actually quite slow working. It's kind of steady but powerful, you know. It kills them slowly, little by little by little by little, but it does kill them. That's the important thing to remember, and we need to start killing them. Okay, so now the thing to remember with garlic that has been misunderstood for I don't know, for a long time, other than people who actually know about herbs, that it is not the garlic itself that is powerful, but the vapor that is produced. You know, when you cut garlic, you can smell it, can't you? It becomes like a strong smell. And when you cut it with a knife, it becomes, you see, like a liquid. You can actually feel it in your fingers. And that liquid and the gas form is called allicin. And this is the chemical that actually kills bacteria. So that's the reason why when you cook garlic, I mean, you can actually eat it raw, but again, when that goes into your stomach pretty much destroys 90% of that garlic because of all the acids in your stomach. You do get some of it, but you actually lose an enormous amount of the power of the garlic. And when I discovered this, I started to cut them, and I would sniff in the gas from that, in the hope that it would destroy the bacteria that was in my brain, you know. So, and I don't know if that worked, but when I discovered that, I started doing that. So the liquid form is better than actually just eating it, but it tastes disgusting. But like I say, it's the gas part that is the real power of the garlic, called allicin. And then from research, I discovered a company in England that had patented a process which could harness this gas allicin and make it into tablet form. And this really is a revolution in chemistry that people don't really know about, because, you know, to harness that gas was not easy. It was a not easy process, that. So congratulations to them. And so I wrote to that company and asked if I could have some of these tablets. This was way back in 2014, late 2014, early 2015. And they sent me these tablets of allicin, which is now, they're well known now, but they weren't so well known back then. And I started using them. And the genius of these tablets is that they don't release the allicin until it got past your stomach, and then it gets into your gut, and from there it's released into the bloodstream. So this is really an absolute miracle. So start buying those like today. Get them today, and they're not expensive, and have them as part of your diet. I mean, I used to eat them straight after my lunch, because they're not like other herbs. You can actually eat them with your food. So that's the first herb, a wonderful, powerful drug, powerful kind of, well, it's not really a drug, is it? But it works like a drug in destroying the bacteria. So that's the first herb that I recommend. Okay, so the next herb that I used as part of my protocol is called Andrographis. And because I knew I was doing this video, I was having a look on my bookshelves where I used to keep all my herbs, and I actually found an empty one that I used, see, Andrographis, just to prove to you that I really did use them. And andrographis is essential if you are unfortunate enough for the Lyme bacteria to have crossed the blood-brain barrier. If the bacteria has actually got into your brain, which it does through your spinal cord, if that has happened, then you are experiencing some strange effects, like brain fog, for example, where it seems like you just can't make sense of things, you can't think properly, you know. That's really scary. It can also cause tinnitus, where you get this ringing in your ears. I'd never had tinnitus in my entire life. I've always been careful about having things too noisy in my ears. I never used to go to loud concerts when I was younger, so my ears, you know, I've taken care of them, and I got this tinnitus, and you know, it was absolutely horrifying. I'll admit it. I was terrified of it, and andrographis stopped it. So yeah, if you've got it in the brain, then I absolutely recommend andrographis. You will notice the difference pretty fast, actually. And you know, I know that it's a really terrifying thought, isn't it? That you have bacteria in your brain. You know, it's really scary thought, that. And I just want to reassure you, don't panic now. Remember, I talked about that when the immune system kills bacteria, that they break apart and they release toxins, don't they? And that means that if the andrographis is killing the bacteria in your brain, then it's releasing toxins in the brain, isn't it? But don't panic, because your brain knows what to do. It's only in the last 20 years that we've actually understood the reason why we sleep. I know it sounds crazy, but it's been a mystery as to why we sleep at all. In fact, the American military was so convinced at one time, I think this was like early 2000s or late 1990s, I'm not sure, but I remember reading about this, that they made a drug to see if they could have military pilots not go to sleep. It's because it's a long flight to Russia, isn't it, you know, and back. And of course they couldn't fly that far because they needed to sleep, see. So they started experimenting with that. That's horrendous to me to think of that. But, you know, it is really dangerous not to sleep. And the reason why we sleep is because the brain itself has its own immune system, okay? So your body has an immune system, but the brain also has an immune system. And what happens is when we sleep, it releases like a chemical, comes over the brain, inside the brain, and it washes away all the toxins. Because think about it, you know, when you drive a car or use anything, there's waste, isn't there? When you use energy, there's waste, okay? So when we use our brain, there's a waste, and that waste is toxic. And so the brain has to find a way of washing away those toxins and to keep the brain healthy. And if those toxins are not washed away, your brain will deteriorate, see? So that's why sleep is vital. It's absolutely vital for brain health. So don't hear about this, that you don't need sleep. It's nonsense. You need sleep. You have to sleep, let the brain heal itself. And when you use andrographis, it's going to kill all those bacteria. So sleep as long as you can and let those toxins. And you will feel so light. You know, you'll feel so light and awake that you'll start to feel that, yeah, I'm killing these bacteria and my brain is washing away the toxins, okay? So just wanted to reassure you there, because it is a scary thought to think that there's bacteria inside your brain. So on top of the fact that andrographis is brilliant at killing bacteria in the brain, it is also has benefits for the heart and the liver. It actually improves heart muscle, and it also improves liver function. And your liver, of course, is vital to your immune system. If you've got a good liver, then you can really fight disease. If you've got a bad liver, it's not good, guys. You need to keep your liver in good condition, and andrographis it actually helps liver function. So yeah, andrographis is a really great tool, a great weapon in your arsenal against the fight of Lyme bacteria. Okay, next on the list is a herb called Japanese knotweed. Now, Japanese knotweed is maybe one of my favorites of all the herbs, and that was because whenever I took Japanese knotweed, I always felt much better. It was guaranteed. And I did try different companies, but the one I'm going to show you here is the one that I recommend, because that seemed to be the one that had the most powerful effect. And the main reason why I used it was because it dramatically lowered the pain level. I mean, you've got to understand here that ordinary paracetamol painkillers just had no effect whatsoever. You know, I was taking 4. You know, I was even taking what do they call it? Those powerful painkillers, morphine tablets, and they just reduced the pain hardly anything. But Japanese knotweed definitely reduced the pain level. Sometimes I could go half a day with very low pain, and that gave me a break. And boy, did I need a break from that pain. You know, it's such a hard burden to live with pain 24 hours a day. So those Japanese knotweed tablets, they was a godsend for me. They really were. Now, the reason why Japanese knotweed is so effective on lowering the pain level is because it actually calms the nervous system down. And if your nervous system is calm and relaxed, then the pain level will automatically reduce. So and it works pretty fast. Within an hour of taking 3 of those herb tablets, then you will feel a lowering of pain. But not only that, Japanese knotweed is actually very effective at killing the bacteria as well. It also repairs cells, improves blood flow, and it actually protects the brain from bacteria. So, you know, what's not to like? Now, when I started to use Japanese knotweed back in 2015, it was not easy to get your hands on, and not all with the same quality as I've mentioned. So I'm only going to recommend, like I said, the ones that I used. And you know, they was really expensive. You know, they were expensive. And what makes me laugh now is that I did see an article, I'll see if I can find it, that in Britain, that in certain areas, I think it's Yorkshire, you know, that certain districts and houses are overrun with Japanese knotweed, in that they can't seem to get rid of it. I laughed my head off when I read that, when I thought to myself how much money I used to get my hands on that, and here they are having it in abundance in their back garden. So if anybody in Britain is watching this and they wanted to start a little business and you've got Japanese knotweed in your back garden, then you could start making these tablets and have a little business for yourself going there. Because honestly, I paid a fortune for these. So yeah, anyway, that's the third one in the list that I recommend. Japanese knotweed, absolutely essential. Okay, so the next herb in my protocol has a funny name, a strange name called cat's claw. I actually couldn't even believe there was such a herb when I read about this. Now, cat's claw is, yeah, first of all, it's not expensive at all and it's quite easy to get hold of. And cat's claw is really fantastic for helping your immune system. Now, remember earlier we talked about T cells, and T cells are part of your immune system's weaponry called NK cells. NK stands for killer. Okay, so or natural killer cells. Okay, so NK cells, natural killer cells, and T cells are part of that group. And cat's claw actually increases the power of these natural killer cells in your body. So, you know, we've already talked about T cells being like Luke Skywalker. And he has like the force, doesn't he? The power of the force. But you see what T cells have a limited, how can I say, they actually can reduce in power over a period of time. And what cat's claw does, it gives them this like an enhanced power. So they're already powerful, but this actually enhances the power, you know. So that's like a powerful weapon to have in your arsenal against the Lyme bacteria. So yeah, cat's claw is essential. It also has inflammatory powers as well. So, you know, I said sometimes if you eat foods you can get an inflammatory reaction. Well, cat's claw reduces inflammatory, and that of course reduces pain and reduces symptoms. So yeah, I mean, that's essential, and the fact that it's not expensive, there's no reason why you shouldn't have this as part of your protocol. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a herb that I actually didn't have as part of my protocol, but I'm going to talk about it because I did try the herb, and I think it's important to mention it because I can kind of recommend it and not recommend it at the same time. So let me explain. So you have to realize that in 2015, you know, I was sort of mid-January, mid-February, the pain I was experiencing was really intense. You know, it was absolutely unbearable, really. And I was desperate to try anything to kill the bacteria in my body. And I was researching medical, you know, the latest medical science in herbs, in immune function and that kind of thing. And I came across an article about this herb called artemisinin. And scientists in Germany were actually testing it as a viable alternative against malaria. And they were having quite remarkable results. And then from that article, it led me to read about German people who had Lyme disease, and they were also desperate for answers, you know, and they started trying artemisinin. And and a lot of these German Lyme sufferers were saying that they were having remarkable results with this artemisinin. And so I thought, well, what the hell? If it's worked for them, then I'll give it a go. So I ordered a bottle. Now, I'm not sure of which company I got them from, because it's a long time ago, and I've looked. I thought I might have them, but in fact I threw them away. But I think that these ones here, I know they were concentrated ones, and I think these are them because they seem to look familiar to me, but I can't guarantee that these were the ones. Okay, but I do those. These are quality. This is a quality product here. Anyway, so one early evening, I decided I'm going to try these, and I was reluctant to try them because I didn't really know much about them. But I thought, what the hell, I'm gonna have a go. So I took 3. I might have took 4, but I think at least 3. And by God, guys, I had one hell of a reaction. I started sweating, I was dizzy, and it felt like all my skin was on fire, particularly my back. My whole back felt like it was bubbling, you know, like try to imagine millions of tiny little bubbles bursting. You know, have you ever seen bath water with the tiny bubbles? It was sort of like that, as if my whole skin was bursting into tiny little bubbles. And it wasn't a pleasant feeling at all. In fact, I thought, oh my God, I'm dying. You know, I thought, what's going on here? And I had to lie down on the floor, and I think I was like that for maybe an hour, and then it started to ease off. Now the next day, like a whole 24 hours later, I did feel dramatically different, I would say. I wouldn't say it was better, but I felt dramatically different, as though there was a reduction of the bacteria in my body. So we need to analyse what happened there, because there's only 2 reasons for that reaction, isn't there? Now the first reason could be that this artemisinin is so powerful that it actually wiped out a load of the bacteria in one go. And remember, when that bacteria is destroyed, it releases toxins in the blood, and that means there was a huge amount of toxins released in the blood in one go, and that would explain the reaction and the symptoms, wouldn't it? The other explanation is that it was an allergic reaction. See, and that's what I mean by well, you know, it scared the hell out of me, and I just decided to throw them away because I didn't want them there as a temptation for me to try again. It was just too scary a reaction, really. So I threw them away, which is why I haven't got them. So that's what I mean by I can recommend them and not recommend them, because I really don't know. All I know is I did feel different the next day, but that just could be that I felt different the next day. So you have to decide yourself, guys, if you want to use artemisinin, so it's entirely up to you whether you do that. But what I will say is this, that I did learn a big lesson from it, and that was, I figured to myself, okay, if it was the truth that it did kill a massive amount of the bacteria in one go, then what I learned from that was that it was not wise to do that. It wasn't wise to kill them in one go, because that was too dramatic a reaction for my body to take in one go. So therefore, the wisest thing to do was to kill the bacteria little by little. See, kill them a bit, let your body wash out the toxins, then kill them a bit more, let the body wash out of the toxins, because then there's a less harm done to my body, isn't it? Because those toxins will definitely have harmed the body as well. See, so I decided that that was the wisest way to go, to take the long path of killing them a little by little, see, until eventually there was so few bacteria that my own immune system could just wipe them out anyway. So there, I thought I'd just share that experience with you. I don't know how strong you are or how weak you are, but it's entirely up to you. But anyway, I survived. It didn't kill me. And there is strong medical research now to back up. In fact, I think there's a medical company actually now looking at artemisinin as a viable alternative against the fight against malaria. So there is medical evidence that it is a powerful herb if the medical industry are actually using it. So as I say, I'll leave it up to you guys. Okay, so the next herb that I used as part of my protocol was actually not part of Professor Buhner's protocol, but I made it an essential part of my own protocol. And I, to this day, totally believe that this particular herb is actually what finally cured me utterly of Lyme disease. And it's called teasel root. And just to prove I have it still here, and there's still some in there, because it holds, you know, for a long time, you know, maybe 30 years. I don't know, I've never really looked into it, but I think it holds, you know, it stays usage for a very long time. And, you know, I kept hold of it because I guess it has an emotional attachment to it, because I really do believe that this was the one that finally did it, called teasel root. And this is the particular make that I used, very high quality. And I kind of like the idea of buying a product from people who actually care for others, because then they're going to put care into it, aren't they? I don't like buying products from a company that really doesn't give a shit about you. But the people that make this, they're caring people. So I recommend that one. So anyway, let's talk about the actual teasel root itself. Why do I highly recommend this one? Now, I've done some research, and in fact, there is very little scientific research that's been done on teasel root. I think they're literally just starting now. So I came across it by pure accident, because because I'm reading about Lyme disease, aren't I? And I live in Norway, and I found a case of a woman. If you want, I'll try and find the article that I read, and I'll put it in the link below. But I don't think it's really that important that you read it, because I can just interpret it for you now. Now, it was one night I was lying on the sofa, and I'm just like a zombie, and I'm reading through the internet, researching, and I found this story of a woman who lived down in Stavanger, which is right at the bottom of Norway. And she was a really remarkable case, this lady, a real hero. She, like me, had been tested for Lyme disease several times, and it came back negative. But she was such a strong-willed lady that she insisted on being tested again and again and again. And she had this brain scan, and they couldn't find anything. And it was so bad, this case was so bad, that this poor lady was put into a mental institution because they thought she was a menace, because she insisted that she had Lyme disease and she wouldn't give up. And when she came out of the mental institution, again, she fought against the medical industry, saying she had Lyme disease. And finally, she insisted on another brain scan, and they found deterioration in the brain, you know. And finally, they found evidence of Lyme disease. So that poor woman, after 7 years of hell, how she had the will to do that while she had Lyme disease. This woman is a hero in my books. But anyway, to cut a long story short, it turns out that she tried teasel root, because she tried everything, hadn't she, you know? And she tried teasel root, and that finally cured her. She'd heard of a woman, I think it's in California, a woman in California, who cured herself from Lyme disease with teasel root. And this, I mean, I might be getting facts wrong here, guys. It's the story that matters here, because that's what motivated me. If you really want, I can try and dig out these articles. You can read them for yourselves. But anyway, as I remember it, this lady, I think it's in California, but I could be wrong. But she, as far as I remember, she was a teacher or something like that. And she got bit by a tick. And, you know, this poor woman lost everything fighting this. Again, she got a negative result on her blood test. And she used all her life savings. She sold her house, lost her job, lost her teaching job. So now she had no real income. And luckily for her, a compassionate neighbour let her live in her basement for free. You know, thank God we have people in the world like that. Otherwise, this poor woman would have been on the streets. Imagine being on the streets and you've got Lyme disease. Jesus. So anyway, this woman had met a herbalist like Professor Buhner, and I think his name's David something, and he had been studying teasel root, and he recommended her to try teasel root. And so she did. And after trying everything, again, I think in her case it was 12 years, and finally this teasel root cured her of Lyme disease. And she's an active woman. I don't know what she's doing today. If she's watching this, my admiration goes out to that lady. So here was like 2 solid cases where people have been cured from teasel root. So I thought, I'm going to try that for sure. So I ordered, I researched it, and this one, like I say, because I read about them, that they were kind of spiritual and caring people, I thought I'm going to buy it from them. And honestly, guys, I would say within 48 hours, I felt dramatically different. It was that powerful. And I was so convinced then that I carried on with it, and I just got better and better the better. The symptoms got less and less and less. And so that awakened my curiosity as a kind of somebody who's interested in science and chemistry. I thought, what the hell is going on here? Because I'll be honest, I was really skeptical. Think about it, like, you know, it's a dropper. It's a dropper, you know, like an eyedropper, see? And what you do, you put 3 drops into a glass of lukewarm water. Now, the temperature of the water is important. It can't be cold and it can't be hot. It's got to be lukewarm. So if you put your finger in, you could nearly hardly feel anything. And that's really important, because the teasel root tincture will merge with the water molecules when it's warm. And this is the key to why it's so powerful. Okay, I'm going to try and explain it in simple terms, because this is how I started to realize why this teasel tincture is so powerful. As I said, there's no medical research done on this. This is my own theory. So think about bacteria. It's like microscopic level, isn't it? You know, and water molecules it's microscopic level. And when you drink water, okay, that water is absorbed by your whole body at the microscopic level. You know, it's smaller than blood. So I think that when you drink this teasel root tincture, when it merges with warm water and you drink it, it gets absorbed into all your body, not just the blood. It goes into the muscles and the tiniest parts of your very being, see? And some believe that this teasel, because it goes into the muscles, because this is where the Lyme bacteria hides. You know, it hides in your muscles, which is why you get muscle aches and why your muscles become weak, see? And the teasel, because it's part of the water, goes deep into your muscles, and that's where it's killing the bacteria, see? But the really bizarre thing for me is that I had no real side effects or strong reactions at all. It was very, very mellow. It kind of reduced, you know, the symptoms and the pain reduced very slowly and gradually. So there was no side effects at all. And there's also theories, not just by me, but by other herbalists. And some scientists now believe, I'll try and find a medical article for this, but they believe that the teasel root chemical actually draws the Lyme bacteria out, and it actually kills the spirojet, the hard when it goes into this where it goes into like hibernation, or it covers itself in a shell. They believe that the teasel root actually destroys that as well, and that's what antibiotics can't do. The antibiotics can't kill the spirojet in its shell form. See, it can't do that, and that's why they can come back. But I believe, I'm totally convinced of this, that teasel root destroys it in its shell form, you know, in its sleeping form, its hiding form. And that would explain why it's never come back in me. I've never had any symptoms since that day. So I basically stopped using teasel when all the symptoms are gone. But of course, just to be sure, I kept hold of it just in case. But they've never come back. So that's the reason why teasel root is absolutely essential as part of your fight against the Lyme bacteria. Before I finish, I just wanted to mention that, you know, back in 2015, when I told certain doctors, including my own doctor, that I was going to use herbs to fight the Lyme disease, you know, many of those doctors were skeptical. Some even laughed. And because I was researching this video, I thought, I wonder if there's been any new research done on this. And I found a medical article from 2020. I had no idea of this. February 2020, written by Maria Kohut, PhD, a professor. And you see, I'll bring it up here now. And you see it says here, Lyme disease treatment. 2 herbal compounds may beat antibiotics. So basically they did some scientific testing on Lyme bacteria with regards to certain herbs. I suppose they put in a little petri disc, don't they? And here it says at the bottom here, this study provides the first convincing evidence that some of the herbs used by patients, such as black walnut, sweet wormwood, cat's claw and Japanese knotweed, have potent activity against Lyme disease bacteria, especially the dormant persistiforms, which are not killed by the current Lyme antibiotics. There we have it, guys, in black and white. This is scientific evidence that these herbs work. And you know, I think that the medical industry are hitting a brick wall. They don't know what to do. Lyme disease is like, you know, it's spreading like crazy. It's getting out of hand. They don't know what to do about it. And so they hear of patients like me who get cured. And so for the first time, they're starting to study it. You know, honestly, I'm thinking of printing this out and sending it to those doctors that were skeptical. Because, yeah, like I say, you know, when I read this, it actually made me cry a little bit because I was vindicated, and so is Professor Buhner as well. You know, because we all took these herbs on faith, and I'm a very scientific-minded person, which shows you that faith has a real, real meaning in existence. Because I would never have taken them if I didn't take them on faith. I had nothing to lose. And here we have scientific evidence to prove that they work. So any of you out there are scientifically minded like myself and skeptical, here it is. Read it for yourself. So that's the main, I can't really think of anything else. If there's any questions that you'd like answered, then put them down below, and I promise I will answer them. I think I've thought of everything. But that was the protocol I used. All the information I think there is for you. This video will be on YouTube for as long as YouTube exists. So for anybody to access, and I wish you all the best of luck. But like I say, make no promises. I can't guarantee it's going to work for you. And it's a long, hard journey, guys. You know, I remember after many months, 4 or 5 months of fighting this, and gradually I decided I'm going to try and get out and about, going to start walking again, get out of the house. And I started by walking to my local post box outside my house, which is about 100 meters away. And that was taking me 1 hour there and 1 hour back. And then I started to walk in the nature a little bit. And I don't know, it was a hard time, guys, and I don't ever want to go through it again. And if you're suffering from Lyme disease, I really sincerely hope that this protocol works for you. But I will just end by saying that many people have said to me and wrote to me and said that Professor Buhner's protocol didn't work for them. And then when I kind of really dug deep into asking them what they did, I did discover that many of them gave up too early, you know, and they didn't cut out sugar and things like that, you know. So I'm skeptical about those people, because personally I'm convinced that if you follow this, if you follow the diet and these herbs, and like I say, there's some medical evidence now that these herbs do work. But saying that, I have to cover myself and say that this is not medical, this is not official medical advice. This is merely sharing with you what I did, the herbs I used, the diet I used, and I've been completely honest and open about it all. I've provided some medical evidence and scientific evidence to back up what I did, and maybe in the future all this will be 100% proven, but I'm convinced myself this is what I did. And if you're going to try this protocol, I advise you to stick with it. At least give it 3 months. Give it that. No sugar, a great diet, using these herbs. Try that for 3 months before giving up. They don't work like tablets where they're fast. Herbs work slow. So think differently about them. We've become so used to tablets from the medical industry that we've become impatient. So I just advise you to give it a chance. It's your life, it's your health, it's your chance. So I'll leave it there and wish you all the best. And as usual, I want you to take care, give care, and be careful out there. And don't be strangers, and visit me again on Arthurian Times. See you guys.
I'm a happy dreamer. I believe in love. I'm a happy dreamer, guided by the stars above. I'm a happy dreamer. I believe in love can change the world. Ooh, yeah.